Hi there, welcome to iTWireTV. Today we're speaking with Geoff Schomburgk, the Vice President for Asia Pacific and Japan at the world's #1 security key vendor, Yubico. Actually, I have my YubiKeys here with me. Now, what we want to talk about today, cyber insurance premiums have skyrocketed due to the constantly evolving cyber threats. But what steps can companies take before signing up for a cyber policy? Minimising security risk posture proactively can reduce the risk of cyber attacks and therefore reduce cyber insurance premiums. So, Geoff, as an industry leader in highly secure passwordless authentication, Yubico fully supports the need for cyber insurance, but our guest Geoff has a few recommended questions that companies should ask themselves before approaching cyber insurance providers. So thank you so much for joining us, Geoff. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you, David, and good to be here as well, yeah.
Thank you. So I guess, Geoff, to set the scene, can you tell us, how much have cyber insurance policies increased?
Yeah, unfortunately they have, and as we've seen an increase in cyber attacks and high-profile ransomware attacks. That's really put pressure on the cyber insurance industry. So as there's been an increase in claims and some of these very high-profile losses, insurance premiums certainly have risen. And there's some research out from the Council of Insurance and Agents and Brokers most recently that over the last 12 months, insurance premiums have risen about 100%. We've got some data from the US saying that it's higher than that. And in the last quarter alone, it's 27% increase. So it's certainly going up very rapidly.
Yeah, crazy. So how do businesses then put themselves in the best position to negotiate a reasonable premium, and particularly a policy that will hopefully pay out should the worst actually happen?
Yeah, look, I think it's like any insurance policy, really. It's to be prepared and to shop around. But it's not just comparing the top line as, what's my insurance premium, but going into those details is really important about what's included, what's excluded, and if there is an incident, what will they pay out? That's often, there are terms and conditions around that. So really dive into the detail, try and understand that as much as possible. But then on the other side, from the organization's point of view, be prepared. Be prepared to demonstrate and prove your cyber processes and your basic standard of security that you have in place today. That will certainly help.
Yeah, fantastic. What about a cyber risk vulnerability report? What can you tell us about that, and how often should that be carried out?
Yeah, well, that's something that the insurer will generally do themselves as part of that initial assessment process. So it's typically done up front. But then that's used to assess the business risk. So if something changes in your organization, so example, with pandemic, a lot of us have moved to the cloud. So cloud brings with it certain benefits. So if you do something significant in your organization, it's probably time to go back and say, hey, look, we've just done this. Can we have another reassessment? Because we think we're in a stronger position. Therefore, our premiums should reduce accordingly. So, regular basis, I think is good. Annual renewals is a good time, but then if something significant happens in your organization, that's a really good time to ask for another review.
Yeah, fantastic. So, Geoff, I'm hearing talk about the Essential 8. Can you tell me what that is and why organisations should review their cybersecurity posture in line with it, with the Essential 8?
Yeah. Certainly at Yubico, we see the Essential 8 as a really important framework. And coming from the Australian Signals Directorate, part of our Department of Defence, and the Australian Cyber Security Centre, the Essential 8 are their recommendations for 8 mitigation strategies to reduce your cyber risk. So it's a really good framework. Organisations can assess their security posture against it, as do the insurers. So it's a nice way of a common language for insurers and organisations to assess their cyber risk. It's a really good framework, and we certainly support it.
Yeah, fantastic. And I guess out of that, what security practices should you consider a priority?
Yes, well, obviously 8 are essential. Some are more essential than others, and we've seen some previous recommendations that there really are 2 that are more important. And One of those is multi-factor authentication. The other one is increasing your backups and patching your system. So, and then in the US, we've also seen the Biden administration with their executive order mandating phishing-resistant MFA. So we can see that multi-factor authentication, MFA, is really one of those priorities. And from an organizational point of view, it's relatively easy to implement, which makes it a quick win.
Yeah, great. But if I'm just a regular company, can I just stick with simple password authentication, or is that not going to be enough to meet the minimum requirements of cyber insurance going forward?
Look, I think you can stick with it for sure, but it won't meet the minimum requirements. And insurers are referring back to various frameworks such as the Essential 8 as that minimum requirement. And look, our research consistently shows that over 80% of data breaches are as a result of stolen login credentials, your username and your password. So that's why MFA is getting such a profile as being important and pretty much a minimum standard now.
Okay, but I guess how difficult is this for organisations to change? I mean, if I'm regular business and I recognise, okay, I need to go from this, traditional password method, how fast can I actually implement a more robust authentication?
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the good things, because multi-factor authentication, MFA, is all based on open standards. Most of the applications and online services that we're using today have already got it there. So it's simply a matter of turning it on. And it's pretty well defined. It's not difficult. So we're talking minutes or hours rather than days and weeks to get it up and running now, which is great.
That's fantastic. So minutes to hours, that's awesome. But what about, I guess, are there other so we've talked about technology, but what about training, for example? Can we do things with the workforce? Can we, what sort of employee training could a business do to make their security profile more attractive to cyber insurers?
Absolutely. And technology alone doesn't solve all problems. We wish it would, that'd be fantastic, but it doesn't. And users and employees in organizations, they don't always appreciate the significance of the data that they're sitting on, and personally identifiable information, etc. So that employee awareness and training is a really important complement to the technologies such as MFA. And we really see organizations that can demonstrate a robust user training and awareness program on a regular basis. Again, that will please the insurers when they're doing that risk assessment. So cyber training is super important as well.
Fantastic. What about, I remember back in the day, we'd talk about how we've got to protect the network perimeter, but now people are working from home, working from anywhere. There is no, the perimeter is the internet, the whole world. I mean, do you work from home, the work from anywhere movement, has that weakened security posture because people can now log in from any location at any time?
Yeah, you're right. The pandemic has forced us to work from anywhere and working outside of the perimeter of the office. It used to be that was your perimeter, so you had to really strengthen the network when you're in the office. But this work from anywhere movement has really changed that. And you said that the perimeter is the identity. So really, really important now to protect the user's identity when they're logging in. And that's where frameworks like Zero Trust come in, and identity is a really, really key part of that. So focusing on that to strengthen the security posture is the answer to the work from anywhere mode that we're in. And I'm working from home today and back in the office as well. So my identity is really important to keep strongly protected with strong MFA.
Yeah, fantastic. And back on, I guess, the cyber insurance policies, I mean, are they specific? I guess, how well can you know what is going to be covered and what will be paid out? How specific are they on these things?
Yeah, the devil's in the detail. As we said before, it pays to check the detail. And look, it's no secret that insurance companies make their money by not paying out. So they will try and be as prescriptive as possible. And what we're seeing is that by trying to limit the risk, they break the items up into certain categories. So that will determine what will be paid out. So again, look at the detail and then be prepared to demonstrate how you've responded to each of those. So that can be things like ransomware payments, losses due to downtimes, need to replace hardware. All of those things are costs which would be paid out. So if you can demonstrate the loss that you've had in accordance with those various categories in the policy, it improves your chances of being paid out should something bad happen.
Yeah, fantastic. No, that's really practical and really helpful. I appreciate that. So I guess then would you recommend that a company taking out a policy engage the services of a proper legal advisor with cybersecurity insurance?
Look, again, the classic answer is it depends, and I'm not a lawyer and not here to give legal advice, but so consider that individually, I think. But many organisations have got people who sign up their insurance policies anyway, so there's a level of maturity already. So take that conversation with your cyber insurer, talk about what your needs are, what you need covered, what's included, what's excluded, what's the conditions for a payout. Should something bad happen, and then you'll be able to assess the level of comfort. And if you're still unclear, then that's probably a good time to bring in some specialist legal advice.
Okay. What about specialist technical advice? What about Yubico, for example? Can I approach Yubico and say, hey, Geoff, look, my company, we want to take out a cyber insurance policy. We're not really sure what to do. We want to minimise our risk posture so that we can, manage our policy expense. Can I call Yubico and ask for help?
Well, you certainly can, and we'd be very happy to talk about that. But our role in the cyber industry is purely providing multi-factor authentication solutions. So, we see that from what we're seeing from our customers are telling us that implementing strong MFA is a really important step. It's not the only thing, as we've just discussed. There are other factors to consider in putting an insurance policy, but we think, and the evidence and mandates coming from things like the executive order from the United States, really pushing that implementing strong MFA is important. So if that's something you want to do, then by all means, we've got, the team is happy to talk through the options. What's the best? You mentioned at the start, passwordless is a really strong form of phishing resistant multi-factor authentication. It's great from a user point of view. That it makes it easy to adopt. Those sorts of things are great options, and we'd be happy to sort of talk those through. But we are around MFA. That's what we do, and it's a really critical part in getting the cyber posture under control and reducing your insurance premiums.
Yeah, fantastic. I've got to say, I've got my Yubico YubiKeys, and I wouldn't even know the password to half my accounts. I just get the most complicated password I can and let my YubiKey handle it for me.
Manages the rest. That's right. So simplicity is really a key part in user adoption, and that's what makes it successful. Rolling out across the organisation, all users using it happily, and that's great from a cyber posture overall.
Yeah, that's fantastic. No, Geoff, thank you. That's been really helpful and really practical, and given tremendous insight into cyber insurance and the facets of it, and what companies can really do. And I love when you said it takes, we're talking about minutes to hours, not, months and to years. That's fantastic. Yeah. Excellent. Oh, well, thank you so much, Geoff. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Great. Thank you so much, David. And enjoy the rest of the day.
You too. Take care.